Everybody can see the screen? Not yet, right? Let me share my screen. Can everybody see the screen now? Thumbs up. Awesome. So let's get started with our session for today. As usual, let's start our session with our usual prayers. Please sing along with me. Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvighnam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Dakshine Lakshmano Yasya Vame Tu Janakatmaja Purato Marutiryasya Tam Vande Raghunandanam Kujantam Rama Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakham Vande Valmiki Kokilam. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Excellent work, everybody. So let's get started with our story session for this week. So let's Hari Om. Before we start this week's story, let's do a quick recap of what we have done in the previous week. So the great battle between Rama and Ravana started, and on day one, the battle was at its peak. Everybody was completely into it. Everybody was emotional. Everybody was very, very active, energetic. And Indrajit, who is the son of Ravana, he came to lead the battle on day one. And as soon as he came, he started doing the battle in a treacherous way. He started cheating. Instead of standing in front and fighting, he used his magic spells to disappear from the battleground and appear somewhere else in the sky behind the clouds where nobody can see him, and started shooting arrows from different places. So as he was doing that, they were trying to, Rama and Lakshmana were trying to ward off the arrows that he was shooting. But when he shot the Nagastra, Naga means snake in Sanskrit. So the Nagastra, it turned into, remember I told Astras have magical powers. So it turned into thousands and thousands of venomous, poisonous snakes, and they hurled around the bodies of Rama and Lakshmana. They tied them down with those snakes, strong, venomous snakes, and they became unconscious. They couldn't fight anymore, they couldn't move anymore, and they were on the battleground without movement, without energy, and they were unconscious, and the snakes, they started biting them as they were lying there. So everybody in Rama's team, they thought the game is over, the battle is over, and they started getting scared. They started running here and there, and in the meanwhile, while this was happening and everybody was really, really tensed, Garuda came from in between the clouds. Garuda is the vehicle of Lord Vishnu. Everybody knows who Garuda is? Thumbs up?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So Garuda is a mighty eagle on which Lord Vishnu rides on. He is as strong and as fast as the wind. To compare his strength, he is as strong as Hanuman. We've always talked about the strength of Hanuman, right? So he is as strong and as fast as Hanuman himself. So there is a staunch enmity between Garuda and snakes. All the snakes are always scared of Garuda because by nature he is an eagle, which makes him a nemesis. Nemesis means a natural enemy to the community of snakes. And he is so strong, so they cannot put up a battle, and they know they wouldn't stand against him. So they're naturally scared. So as soon as Garuda flapped his wings from above the clouds and came down and landed where Rama and Lakshmana fell unconscious, all those snakes, they left Rama and Lakshmana alone, and they ran away from there as soon as they saw Garuda. Then Garuda, he gently waved his wings on top of Rama and Lakshmana, taking away all the poison, all the venom that the snakes injected into them. So that made them really, really strong and back to their usual self, how they were before the battle started, and even more stronger, even more energetic after the touch of Garuda. And meanwhile, Indrajit, he thought that the battle was over. He went and told Ravana that it's all done. You can rest happily. Ravana, I finished the battle. So he was very, very happy to hear that. And they started celebrating the victory of Indrajit in the palace of Ravana. So that is where we, and now that they are up and all the Rama and Lakshmana are up with the same kind of energy as before, and all the monkeys, they started jumping with joy, they started dancing because they all were very scared. Their leaders, top two leaders, they fell down and they didn't know what was going to happen on day one. As soon as they saw that they were energetic and they came up and stood up, they were very, very happy to see that. And then Rama expressed his gratitude to Garuda. He did namaskaram to Garuda and he said, "O mighty bird, how can I ever repay your help that you have done? Who are you and why did you come to help me? And what is the story behind all of this?" He asked that, and Garuda, he gently said, "I am a very, very close associate to you, but it is not the right time for me to tell all the details. Just know that I'm always there, I'm always watching you, I'm always behind you, I'm always at your service. That information is good enough for now. And it is my pleasure to come down and help you out in any way possible. So now I wish the very best for you, and I hope you win this battle soon and restore the righteousness, restore the dharma, and quench the evil that is Ravana." So he wished him the very best, and then he flew into the skies. So what does that tell us? Even though Rama is a avatar, incarnation of Lord Vishnu, he doesn't have that information. He doesn't know that he is a form of Vishnu. If that is the case, then he would have said, "Oh Garuda, you came, good thing you came. I was waiting for you. What took you so long?" He would have greeted him, right, as if he knew him from years and years and years. After all, he is his vehicle, right? But Rama asked him, "Who are you? Why did you come? Where are you coming from? How come you're so strong?" All these questions. So that tells us that Rama himself, he doesn't have that information that he is an incarnation of Vishnu himself. He treats himself, he considers himself as a human being. He followed all the rituals, all the things that a human being should do, and behave in a manner that is righteous, that is virtuous, and that is trustworthy for everybody. So that is the greatness of Rama, right? So that is where we concluded our story last week. So let's pick up the story from there, and let's get started with this week's story. Before that, there's a question here. looks like a picture. I don't want to download it now. Okay, so everybody in Rama's army, Sugriva, Hanuman, Angad, Jambavan, Vibhishana, all of them came and they stood around Rama and Lakshmana. They congratulated them for fighting off this great, grave danger that Indrajit has caused. And they all started to strategize the battle plan again. They came and they said, okay, it is not time to indulge too much in celebrations. Now that you are up, we are very, very happy, and all our troops are re-energized. They're as energetic as they were before, and they're ready to battle. They're ready to tackle the demons and bring them down. So give your orders and tell us your next plan. So again, they discussed various formations of battle strategies of how the armies should stand and how they should attack. So we talked about the palace and the fort around the palaces, right? So the fort is in a circular shape. So there are multiple gates to enter the fort. So each gate is assigned to a warrior. So all the troops that come out of that gate, that particular warrior will take care of all those troops and battle them, and they will try to subdue them, and they'll try to enter through that fort under the leadership of that particular warrior. So they discussed all that, and Rama deployed all those armies into various segments of the forts and the battleground. And meanwhile, in Ravana's court, the news that Rama and Lakshmana are up and energetic and ready to battle, that went. The soldiers and the spies, they took that information to Ravana. So you can imagine how shocked Ravana must be. He didn't know what was happening, because the way Indrajit came and told that the battle was over and all the snakes are surrounding the bodies of Rama and Lakshmana, and they are not able to get up and they will not be able to get up. Ravana thought, obviously, oh, it's all done. The victory is in my pocket, right? But as soon as all the armies, the soldiers came and told this, he was very, very surprised. He was baffled. He didn't know what to do in the beginning. Then he said, okay, let's regroup. Whatever happened. Since we were able to attack them on day one, we will be able to keep that force, and we will be able to try to subdue them. We will be able to defeat them. So he was confident about it. So he called upon his great warriors, all the chief commanders. Out of those commanders, he picked Dhumraksha. His name is Dhumraksha. So he's very, very, very big guy with muscular body, and he is very talented, and he is a great warrior with skills of archery, wrestling, with skills of sword, using a sword, spears, spikes, maces. He is an expert in all those weaponry. So he said, Dhumraksha, take all the army that you need and go attack the armies of Rama and bring back the good news. I want the big warriors to be down, and I want their defeat, so bring me back that good news. So Dhumraksha, he went from one of those gates, and as soon as he went out with his big chariot and all the horses and the elephants and all the cavalry behind him. So in front of that gate, the warrior leader guarding that gate is Hanuman. For his bad luck, Dhumraksha, he didn't know that was his last day. He entered the gate out of where Hanuman was standing. So he and Hanuman, they started fighting, they started wrestling. And Hanuman, he started jumping up on the trees. He started moving away from Dhumraksha. They wrestled. He put him down. They were on top of each other, throwing punches at each other. Then Hanuman said, okay, enough is enough with this guy. So he uprooted a big tree. I told you, right? He doesn't carry separate weapons. He has a mace in his hand. It is somewhere always, but he uses whatever is around him. The trees, big trees, the boulders out of the mountains, mountain peaks. He breaks those mountain peaks and throws them on his enemies. That's how strong Hanuman is, right? So he uprooted a big long tree and he threw it on Dhumraksha. So it fell right on Dhumraksha's head, and the head broke into pieces, and Dhumraksha died in the battleground. And again, every time these things happen, the warriors, the chief commanders, they fall down in the army battleground. The news goes back to the king immediately because he has to re-strategize. Dhumraksha, along with other leaders, he is supposed to take care of the army. If he himself has fallen down, that means he needs to be replaced by somebody else before the armies take over that segment and that battalion. So immediately the news went back to Ravana. Every time Ravana hears this, he acts like he is very surprised. This shouldn't surprise him anymore. Hanuman, he showed his valor, his strength. He even fought with his own son Akshakumara, who was undefeated until then. But every time he acts surprised, every time he says, oh no, I am undefeatable, nobody can break me, nobody can defeat my troops. That is how his stand is. So the news went back to Ravana, and to his surprise, again, he was very, very, very upset. He was sad for Dhumraksha's death because he was the commander. And then he said, okay, let's bring our next the chief commander, Vajradamstra. Vajradamstra is like who a person, the name itself means the person who has the body like a diamond, because diamond is unpenetrable, unbreakable. Nobody can, only a diamond can cut a diamond. So that is how strong a diamond is. So he is named with a body of the strength of diamond. That is how strong Vajradamstra is. Same thing, he has expertise in various strategies and battle strategies and weaponry. He went out with all his armies and he started fighting with Angad. Everybody remembers who Angad is? Thumbs up. Angad is Vali's son. Everybody remembers who Vali is? Thumbs up. Vali is Sugriva's brother, the fallen warrior, right? And even though he was a bad guy, he is a brother, elder brother of Sugriva. So Angad, you can imagine how strong Angad is, right? So he is very, very strong, and he is the prince of Kishkinda, next in chief after Sugriva. So he started fighting with Vajradamstra. Again, they put up a great duel battle between the both of them. They fought with their swords, they fought with their spears, their spikes, their maces, they threw rocks at each other, and they started fighting on the battleground, and everybody around them, the battle was so intense that they dropped their weapons and they were just watching as if it was a TV show, right? And finally, Angad, he took his spear and he pierced it into the heart of Vajradamstra, and he killed Vajradamstra. So another commander in Ravana's line fallen down. So the team of Rama, Lakshmana, Sugriva, Vibhishana, Jambavan, they are soaring high. They are very, very proud of themselves. They are doing good. They are in a good place. So in meanwhile, Ravana called upon another warrior called Akampana. So all of these are commanders of different battalions. So I'm not even discussing the soldiers, the charioteers, the other many thousands and thousands of army folks, demons that are coming into the battlefield. They are getting squashed, they are getting punched, they are getting kicked by the monkeys. I am only telling the main leaders. Even Valmiki, even sage Valmiki, when he wrote and described, he just described the main warriors' battles between each other. It is assumed that the demons are getting killed and demons are getting thrashed by the armies of the monkeys. So even though it's a battle, that means there is sacrifice on both sides. There are monkeys that are getting hurt. There are monkeys that are getting the monkeys that are in pain. But most of the damage in the battle is happening to Ravana's army. So Akampana, he is also a great warrior, very huge. He came in a big chariot with many horses in front of him, a cavalier of elephants who were guarding him on all sides with soldiers on top of the elephants. And as he was going through the armies of the monkeys, he's trashing so many of them. The elephants are stomping on the armies of monkeys, and he is creating a lot and lot of damage to the armies of Rama and Lakshmana. Then Hanuman saw that and he got really angry, and he jumped on top of the chariot that Akampana was riding on. He broke that chariot into pieces. So Akampana, he fell down onto the ground, and then they both engaged in a fight. He didn't carry any, like I said, no weapons required for him, right? The big nails, his fist, his elbows, his knees, they're so strong that he kept punching repeatedly again and again, throwing those punches on Akampana. But Akampana started bleeding from everywhere. And after that, he fell unconscious. He couldn't retaliate. He couldn't even defend himself. So if anybody is throwing a punch, the main thing is a reflex. At least they should be able to put up their hands, right? To guard themselves or to guard their face. Akampana, after a little while, he was out of energy. He couldn't even put up his hands to guard from the punches that Hanuman was throwing. So everybody knew that Akampana's story is done and he's going to be down soon. And as expected, Hanuman, he used his elbows, he used his nails, he used his fists and finished off Akampana with mighty punches on his face and his chest. So Akampana also fell down on the battleground, and the news, again as usual, it went back to Ravana. So the news, as one after the other, all these people are falling down, and apart from calling new warriors, new commanders, he's not able to figure out anything else. I don't, the one thing who could have done maybe is send back Indrajit again, but he somehow thought the commanders that were before, they will be able to subdue and they will be able to control the armies of monkeys, but one after the other, all the commanders, they kept getting defeated, they kept getting killed. So next in line was a warrior called Prahasta. His speciality is his mighty shoulders. He is so strong that he can lift mountains. He can lift the peaks of the mountains, big trees. So he's so strong. So he also went on his big chariot surrounded by lots and lots of armies and him in the center. So he used his bow and arrow to discharge lots and lots of arrows on the armies of the monkeys. So Nila is the son of fire god. So remember, all these monkeys, they are all different forms of gods. So like Hanuman, his form, his energy, his strength is from air god, because Hanuman is air god's son and he put all his strength and all his blessings into Hanuman. In the same way, we talked about Nala. Nala is the chief architect that built the bridge on top of the ocean. How was he able to do that? Because he is the son of the chief architect of the gods, Vishwakarma. So everybody, all these monkeys, they took birth. Gods blessed them with their strengths, with their forms, and they all took birth as monkeys to assist Rama and Lakshmana. And why monkeys? Because Ravana, he did a tapas, he did a penance for Brahma, and when he got a boon, Ravana asked to be undefeated against all beings. He listed everybody except for humans and monkeys. So Lord Vishnu took the form of human and all the gods took the forms of monkeys. So Nila is the son of fire god. So you can imagine what kind of fire he must have, right? So he is very strong, he is very fast, and he is blazing fast and blazing warrior. So he took his mace and he stood against Prahasta, and they both fought with mace, they both fought with spears, they both fought with swords, and finally Nila took his mace. The mace means the gada, they call it, the round thing that they have which looks like a big hammer. So he took his mace and he killed Prahasta by striking him with the mace on top of his head repeatedly. So Neela finished the story of Prahasta also. So where does this news go back to again? The soldiers take this news back to exactly, they take it back to Ravana. So I'll pause here. I see a couple of hands raised. Let's see if you have any questions. Anybody has any questions? Good, no questions yet. Then let's move forward. So another great victory for the team of Rama. Ramakrishna, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question.
Why didn't Ravana list monkeys and humans?
He underestimated them. So that is also one of the reason, apart from the million reasons why we pray to Rama, because he's a god, he defeated the evil, he restored good in the world, and he showed the humans how to live a righteous life. Apart from all of that, there is one more reason why we should be so thankful to Rama, because Ravana looked down upon humans and monkeys. He thought that there is no way any other creature would be able to defeat me, but I don't even have to ask anything against humans and monkeys. They're already so weak. They're already so not battle worthy of the great with the great demon king Ravana. Why ask for a boon against them? So Rama, he took birth as a human and he restored our pride as humans. He showed what humans are capable of if they put their mind into it, and if they practice, if they live a life of good and righteousness, how they can be very popular for years and years and years, thousands of years, and how people will follow them. So he restored that pride for humans. Rama did that. And Ravana did not ask just because of his ego, his arrogance, thinking that humans and monkeys, they're not even capable of doing that anyways. So that is why he didn't ask.
But what about creatures that are even weaker than monkeys? Like maybe something like a snail or something.
Yeah, he didn't ask all that, but the thing is, so there has to be a strategy, right? So the most strategic situation here to take form of and lead a battle against him seems like, the humans and monkeys and bears, they are able to work with each other and they are able to stand against the mighty army that is Ravana's army, right? So if we go through all these creatures like, the small snakes, the snails, tortoise, all those things, there are other creatures that he might not have asked, but strategically they won't be able to stand a battle with Ravana anyways. So when Lord Brahma strategized this battle against Ravana, he said, humans and monkeys, let's put all our strength into them. And that gives us a very strategic point, and that gives us a good stand against Ravana and his armies, and we will be able to defeat him and stop his atrocities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So Hari Om, let's get back to the story. Good question. Let's get back to our story where Prahasta got killed and the news went back to Ravana.
These people with the emojis, that's like 2018 people.
If you don't have any questions, please go to mute so it doesn't disturb anybody else. Because I don't want to mute all. If you have any questions, I want you to be able to.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Hey, no worries. Thank you. And so now is a point of frustration for Ravana. So all the armies, whatever he's strategizing, everybody is coming back empty-handed. Now he's scared. Now he is a little perplexed. Oh, what is happening? On day one, I thought the battle is over and everybody is dead. And now all my chief commanders, most important ones who are very, very strong and who were never defeated before, they are all dead. What do I do now? And he said, why not? I will go myself. I will finish this once for all. Then he took all the armies, the Indrajit, Prahasta, all his chief commanders, and along with the entire army battalions, the walking battalion, the horse riding battalions, the chariot battalions, the elephant riding battalions, everybody. So he wanted to make a very big attack and shock everybody. So he wanted to finish the battle. He thought at least that would give him a very good strategic point to defeat Rama and to finish this for once for all. So he announced to his team, he said, let's attack all our strengths together, put all our strengths and attack once. Again, Rama, he's prepared for this. And he is a great strategist when it comes to battle planning. And he learned all this in the Gurukulam with sage Vasishtha. He learned it with Vishwamitra, sage Agastya, Bharadwaja. All these people, they poured all their knowledge into him, right? So he is prepared for it. So that is the reason why the round fort it is, he put guards and divided the army in front of all the gates. So everybody is covered, every place is covered, and every warrior, every commander has enough guards behind him. So he is ready for this ambush. So when Ravana, the gates opened, the armies of Ravana, they just gushed out, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And Ravana, in the middle of all of that, on his big mighty chariot, along with Indrajit, Prahasta, Mahodara, all the great warriors, he came and he surprised everybody. But it's a surprise, but it's not that they're unprepared. So everybody took their positions and a mighty battle, amazing battle, unbelievable battle started happening between the side of Ravana and Rama. The arrows are going through the air. Everybody is engaged in dual battle. The soldiers are fighting with each other, and Indrajit is fighting with Lakshmana. And in Ravana, he started going into the plains of where the main battle warriors of Rama's side are standing, and he stood in front of Sugriva, he stood in front of Hanuman. So he started fighting with each of them. So they are getting distracted. Hanuman fights with Ravana for a little while, then he sees that Indrajit is taking apart the other side of his army, so he shifts there a little bit. Sugriva takes over the battle, then Vibhishana is fighting the battle with the commanders of Ravana's side, and all these things are happening. And Rama, he is discharging thousands of arrows a minute. Lakshmana doing the same, and everybody is so intense. Finally, Rama and Ravana, they stood against each other. So the first time Rama is seeing Ravana, he hasn't seen him before. He sent messengers. Hanuman has seen him. He sent messengers through Angad. Angad has seen him, but never Rama and Ravana in front of each other, right? So Rama, he immediately got alerted. He was very angry, but he was impressed by the aura that is surrounded around Ravana. I told you, right, apart from the evil part, the greed to marry somebody else's wife, Ravana is a great staunch devotee of Lord Shiva. He does his prayers, he did tapas for years and years, which gives him that aura, which gives him that spiritual strength. So Rama could immediately recognize that. But battle is battle, enemy is enemy. He has committed a crime, inexcusable crime, by abducting his wife. So immediately he took his stand and they started fighting with arrows. So they are throwing mighty arrows at each other, astras, which turn into different things. So Ravana is throwing fire arrow at Rama, and Rama is throwing water arrow at Ravana. He's throwing Nagastra at Ravana. He's throwing Garudastra at Ravana. So they are battling against each other. Very intense battle. So finally, Rama, he immediately realized that he has to increase his speed to be able to subdue Ravana's strength and to be able to control him. Otherwise, if it is one-on-one match, it is going to be very difficult. So he started releasing multiple arrows, one after the other, at a very great speed. So it was Ravana's turn to be shocked. He was very, very shocked with what happened, and then he immediately stopped the battle. He was in shock. His bow broke, and his charioteer, he was lost. And the chariots, the horses in the chariot, they are going very, very confused, and they are going all over the place. So he immediately realized that things are going out of control for him. And then he turned back. The great warrior Ravana, he turned back like a coward, and he went back into his fort, and he closed the doors like a coward. So that is the first encounter of Ravana and Rama, and clearly Rama stood winner. He said, I'm going to leave you, I'm not going to fight. He always fights by the rule book, he doesn't cheat. So one of the main rules of the battle is do not discharge a weapon on somebody who is running away, who is showing their back. So since Ravana showed his back and he is going back into his fort, he did not discharge his weapons and he did not attack him. He just let him escape as per the rule book. So that's what happened there. And all the armies are also perplexed by the acceptance of defeat by Ravana. So at this point, actually, if he had understood how strong Rama is, and he had understood that the defeat is inevitable, if he got down the chariot, he came to Rama and asked for forgiveness, he would have spared all the lives of everybody in Lanka. But that ego, that arrogance, that headstrong Ravana that does not accept the truth, he could not agree that Rama is the superior warrior. He went back into the fort and he went back into the royal palace, but he was thoroughly embarrassed, thoroughly in shock, thoroughly ashamed, because this never happened to him before in a battleground, especially with humans, never. So he was in shock. So he called upon his soldiers and messengers. He said, it is time for us to wake up the greatest weapon of Lanka, my younger brother. All of you remember who the younger brothers of Ravana are? Two brothers of Ravana, right? Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana. Where is Vibhishana right now? Vibhishana is already in Rama's camp. So there is no calling Vibhishana. So who can he call then? Kumbhakarna. The Kumbhakarna, who got boons from Lord Brahma that he will be a great warrior, he will be very, very big, he will eat for 6 months and sleep for 6 months. So the big bodied Kumbhakarna. So Ravana, he wanted to engage his younger brother in the battle. He didn't know how else to defeat the team of Rama. So he sent his troops to wake up Kumbhakarna. Again, you remember that they all did tapas and they all asked for different things when Lord Brahma came in front of them. Kumbhakarna, he got the boon of becoming very, very big and eating for 6 months. He can eat anything and he can digest it, and then he sleeps for 6 months. So that is the boon he got. So now the tricky part is how to wake him up. So if he's eating for 6 months and if he's sleeping for 6 months, you can imagine how big he'll be and how the troops can wake him up. So the troops, they started thinking of various strategies to wake him up. So they went in with trumpets, they went in with drums, they went in with conches. So they started playing all those sounds near his ear. No movement. Then they started taking the sharp weapons like swords, the spears, the spikes. They started poking him with all those weapons. No movement. He didn't move at all. He didn't even know, not even like a mosquito or a fly falling on his skin. He didn't even care. He didn't even ward them off. Then they called upon a troop of elephants, and they made those elephants get on top of his legs and thighs and his chest. The elephants started going around and thumping him with the trunks. No movement, not whatsoever, anything. Then they didn't know what else to do to wake him up, because once he wakes up, if he does anything like move his hands or legs, they'll all be dead, because he's so big as a mountain, and if the hand falls on them, they'll all be dead. So they have to be very careful also. So then they decided the other favorite thing for him, other than sleeping, is to eat. So they had their cooks make plenty and plenty of items. All kinds of items that you can think of, sweets, rice items, curries, the liquid items, everything, all kinds of meat, all kinds of biryanis, pulavs, whatever you can think of, pizzas, ice cream, anything, your imagination. So they made all of that and big quantities. So once you start cooking all that and once you put them in containers, what will happen first? Beautiful aroma will come. Aroma means smell. So they brought all of those in big carriages, the elephants carrying all those, and they put it in front of him near his nose. So that actually got him got a little movement in him. He started smelling the delicious food, and then he said, "Oh, somebody cooked something delicious for me." And then he woke up. As soon as he woke up, first thing he saw around all the soldiers. He didn't even talk to any of them. He started eating all the stuff that they brought in to that big room where he was sleeping. So within minutes, he cleared all the bowls, all the vessels, all the items that were put in front of him. Now he is ready to talk. After his hunger is quenched, he said, "What is the matter? It looks like you're trying to wake me up. So what brings you guys here?" So then they said, "Your brother summoned you immediately. He needs your help. King Ravana asked for you to come meet him immediately." So he has great respect for his elder brother. He treats him like a father. He is very, very respectful to his elder brother Ravana. So he immediately got up and then he went to the royal palace of Ravana. He stood in front of him. He did pranam or namaskaram to him. And he sought his blessings. "Oh, elder brother, it looks like you have called for me. How can I help you?" So then Ravana then explained the situation to him. He said, "We are in a battle, middle of a battle. So I want to marry Sita Devi. So I want your help. I want you to go finish off this battle once for all. You are strong enough. You have all the battle strategies and techniques to take upon any sized army, and you can make this happen." So Kumbhakarna's first reaction is, and pay attention to this, he is a demon that sleeps for 6 months and eats for 6 months. Now, his first reaction is, "What you are doing is not right, Ravana. You are abducting somebody else's wife and you kept her captive here, and now you are jeopardizing your entire army. You already sacrificed your son. Your brother joined the army of the opponent. You sacrificed commanders in your line. You yourself stood in front of them and tasted defeat for the greed of marrying somebody else's wife. I will battle from your side, but what you're doing is not correct. What you're doing is not right." He gave his advice to Ravana. Again, list of people, all the people. You remember everybody who gave this advice to Ravana? Starting from Maricha, everybody, Sita Devi, Vibhishana, Angada, Hanuman, Malyavan, all of them gave this advice to Ravana. And he himself first-handed experience of defeat with Rama. No, his ego, his arrogance, his staunch want to be on the evil side, on the wrong side, just for his greed. It is overtaking all of these advices, and it is putting everybody's life in jeopardy. This poor guy, he just had his meal and he's sleeping. Look what he is doing to him. He woke him up and he's sending to a battle that is not his battle. Why is Kumbhakarna up and going to the battle for what? Not for the protection of demons, not for the defense of good, not for the defense of his army or Lanka, just for the greed of his brother. And it is mighty of him to express that to Ravana in spite of his respect for him and tell him what is right and wrong. So Ravana, as usual, he got very angry and he said, "I am the elder brother here, so you are to just follow the rules and just go, and I am the king here. You just have to follow my instructions, whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not. So now, without any argument, go to the battlefield and fight on my side, defeat the armies of Rama, and come give me the good news. So then Kumbhakarna said, so be it, I will fight on your behalf. That is what I am going to do, because I am your younger brother who respects you, and I am also a citizen of your command. So I am going to follow your instructions, O mighty king. And then another minister called Mahodara, he also got up and he started talking against Kumbhakarna. He said, you just follow the instructions of Ravana. Never talk back to the king. This is not the right way to behave in front of the king. And he started giving all the bad advice to Ravana. Then Kumbhakarna, he turned back to Ravana and he asked Mahodara to keep quiet. Very politely he said, you're not giving the good advice to your king. As a minister, you're supposed to tell him what is right and what is wrong. Instead, you're always telling him what he wants to hear, what is not good for him. So ministers like you is bringing upon this misery to my elder brother. And he told Ravana, because of people like him giving wrong advice to you, that is what is bringing upon misery to you. Do not listen to these guys. Get rid of all of these bad guys. So again, a good advice from Kumbhakarna, and he told all of that. And then he went to the battlefield to fight the battle with Rama. So you can imagine, as he was walking away out from the fort, everybody goes through the door, right? Instead, this guy, he stepped over the fort, the big long fort. That is how big he is. He just stepped on top of it and he crossed the fort and he went on to the other side. So you can imagine the surprise of all the armies of Rama. They didn't never saw this big of a person before. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know who he was. So Rama, he asked Vibhishana, who is this? What is happening here? So then he explained the strength of Kumbhakarna. He said, we all have to collectively fight to take down Kumbhakarna. And if you see Vibhishana's stand, it is not easy for him. He is strategizing and he is giving all this against his own brother. But for Vibhishana, doing the right thing is more important than his brothers themselves. So he told the strategy, he said how strong he was, and he said, let's all collectively attack him. That is the only way we can bring him down. So meanwhile, as he was walking through, he's not even using his hammer, he's not even using his mace. He's just walking on top of the armies. He's stamping them, and then he is with his hand, he is just swiping them across. So with his mighty hand, the big hand, it's like a big dinosaur. Imagine, you must have seen the movie Godzilla versus Dinosaur, Godzilla versus the movies, right? So it is like the Godzilla moving across the armies of Rama. So then all thousands and thousands of monkeys, they're falling under the foot of Kumbhakarna and they're getting squished. So then the big warriors, the great warriors, monkey warriors like Hanuman, Sugriva, Angad, Neela, Nala, they all collectively went and jumped on top of Kumbhakarna. With their nails, they started taking his skin, tearing his skin apart. And then he is doing like this, he's just pushing them off from his body. They're falling down. Again, they're taking big mountain peaks and they're throwing at him. And as soon as the mountain peaks hit the chest of Kumbhakarna, they're becoming a fine powder and they're falling down. So they're not able to hurt him. They're not able to bring him down in any way. So other soldiers, they're jumping on top of him with the sharp spears and they're trying to poke him with that. They're trying to hurt him with it. But the spears are getting broken into pieces, but they're not going into the skin of Kumbhakarna. So then Rama and Lakshmana, they came in front of Kumbhakarna and they started using the very, very strong astras that they have, the arrows. So first Rama used a astra that is given by Indra himself, which is as strong as the Vajrayudham, the diamond weapon. He hurled that weapon on top towards Kumbhakarna's arm. So it went with jet speed and it struck the arm of Kumbhakarna and the right hand of Kumbhakarna fell on the battlegrounds. So now Kumbhakarna has only one hand. With one hand and the legs and the big body, he's still continuing the fight. He's sweeping the soldiers across and he's stomping the soldiers. He's throwing the big mountains with one hand. He's picking up rocks and throwing them. And he's trying to throw those stones and rocks on top of Rama and Lakshmana also. As they were coming in the air, Rama is releasing arrows and breaking them into pieces. So that went on for a while, and again Rama took a very, very strong weapon that he got from the gods and he threw it onto the left arm of Kumbhakarna. So if he doesn't have the arms, some of the damage can be controlled immediately. So Rama is strategizing how to bring him down methodically. So the second left arm also fell down on the ground. Now he just has the torso and he is stomping. Even then he's not stopping. He's stomping everybody with his strong legs. He is stomping on top of the monkey warriors. He's stomping through the elephants. He's stomping through all the bears and he's creating havoc still. Then Rama immediately took another arrow and he attacked the knee of the Kumbhakarna. He took down the first right knee and then the left knee of Kumbhakarna. So he fell down like a big tree. When they saw down the big tree, how does it fall? It falls like the big tree falls in front, right? In the same way, the torso of Kumbhakarna fell in front, squishing so many hundreds and hundreds of army soldiers in front of him. So he fell on top of all those soldiers, all the elephants, horses, and everybody chariots, and all of them got squished underneath. Now he's still alive. He doesn't have legs. He doesn't have arms. So Rama took his mighty weapon again. He now aimed at his neck, Kumbhakarna's neck. He released it. He chanted the mantra that is associated with that particular astra. He released it, and that astra went with blazing fire, and he hit the neck of Kumbhakarna. It sliced the neck. It took the head of Kumbhakarna and threw it away from the torso of Kumbhakarna. So he lost his hands, he lost his legs, his torso fell down, and then his head got chopped off by the arrow that was released by Rama. So everything methodically, he hit the strong points of Kumbhakarna, and finally Rama took him down. So the poor guy, he had a nice meal and he was sleeping. Ravana, he had to wake him up, send him against Rama, all for what? His own brother, his sons, his commanders, everybody's life. He is gambling their lives for nothing, for his own greed. That is what Ravana is. So his baby brother, his younger brother, he died in the battlefield, and one person who was very emotional, even though he was happy that Rama's side won, but he was very happy. He wept in front of Kumbhakarna's body. That is Vibhishana. His own brother, he had to strategize against his brother's death. He had to stand against him, and he has to see him fall down and die in front of his own eyes. So very emotional moment for Vibhishana as a brother, but as a team, Rama's army triumphed, a great victory today, because they took down Kumbhakarna, who is a very, very, very important and critical part of Ravana's army. So with great joy, all of them, they were very, very energetic. They said the name of Rama, Lakshmana, Hanuman, and they, even with great energy, fought the armies of the demons, and they started killing everybody in their vicinity. So meanwhile this was happening, the news of Kumbhakarna's death went back to Ravana, and he was very, very, very upset to hear that Kumbhakarna fell down in the battlefield and he died fighting the battle of Ravana, which was not needed at all. Even though he acts remorse, even though he acts that he was very sad, he never questions himself, why am I doing all this, jeopardizing all these lives? If he had asked that question, he could have saved so many lives. But Ravana would never do that, questioning himself, introspecting, looking at his own mistakes and trying to resolve them and trying to become a better person. That would have saved all his community and clan, but he didn't do that. So that day, at the daybreak, all the armies, they went back to their camps and they are taking a break from the battle. And the army of Rama and Lakshmana, they were excited, they were very, very happy by their accomplishment that day. So with that, the great victory of Rama against Kumbhakarna, we are going to stop the story at this juncture and we are going to continue the story from then on. Very exciting battle next week. It goes up and down and goes through lots and lots of turning points. So it's going to be very exciting next week. Again, a great battle between the teams. That is where we are going to pick up next week. Okay? With that, we are going to conclude the story segment for this week. And then we're going to begin the next segment, which is the Hanuman Chalisa. Any of you want to volunteer to lead the recital today? Shreyas and Tejas, you guys can unmute yourself and you guys can...
Sir, I have a doubt.
Okay, go ahead, ask your question and then we will...
So what is Garbhastra?
Garudastra means it's it neutralizes the Nagastra, just like eagles are nemesis to the snakes, right? So Garudastra, it neutralizes the Nagastra, which is the snake astra, which is the snake weapon. So it releases eagles and other birds, and whatever snakes get released from Nagastra, they get neutralized because of that.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Was Garuda also fighting with the enemies of them in the battle?
No, he, after saving Rama and Lakshmana, he flew back into the skies and he went back to Vaikuntham, which is the abode of Lord Vishnu. Because this is the battle of humans and monkeys. So he didn't want to be a part of that battle. So he went back to his abode, that is Vaikuntham.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hari Om. Any other questions?
Sir,
Go ahead.
we want to read Hanuman Chalisa today.
Who is talking?
Nikhil and Praneeth.
Nikhil and Praneeth, I will put your names down for next week. And you guys will be reciting the Hanuman Chalisa next week. This week, let's give a chance to Tejas and Shreyas, and I will put your names down for next week. How about that?
Okay.
All right. I'll put your names down for that. Okay. Be ready for next week. Okay. Tejas and Shreyas, if we don't have any other questions, unmute yourself and go ahead with the recital.
Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja Nijamana Mukula Sudari Varano Raghuvara Vimalaya Shah Jodaya Kafalachari Buddhihina Tanujanike Sumira Upavana Kumara Bala Buddhi Vidya Devu Mohi Haravu Kalesha Vikara Jai Hanuman Jnana Guna Sagar Jai Kapisha Jai Loka Ujagara Namaruta Atulita Bhavanama Anjali Putra Pavana Sudarama Mahavira Vikarama Vajarangi Kumara Nivara Sumati Ke Sangi Kanchana Varana Vinara Suresha Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesha Hada Vajra Udvaja Viraja Nande Munja Jane Bhusaj Shankara Shubhana Keshari Nandana Teja Pratapa Maharaga Vandana Vidyavana Guniyati Chatura Rama Kaja Karibe Ko Atura Prabhu Charitra Sunibe Ko Rasuya Rama Lakana Sita Mana Basuya Sukshma Rupa Daisya Iti Kava Vikata Rupa Dailanka Jarava Bhima Rupa Daiashara Samhare रामचंद्र के काज सवारे, जीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुवीर हर शिवर लाए, रघुपति कीन्ही गोट बजाए, तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाए, सहस्र वदन तुम्हारो यश गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे, सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीश, नारद सारद सहित अहीश, यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते, कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते, तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीना, राम मिलाय राजपद दीना, तुम्हारो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना, युग सहस्र योजन पद पार, तिर्योताहि मधुर फल जानो, प्रभु मुद्रिका मैंने मुख माही, चरणांगी जय अचरण नाही, दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे देते, राम द्वारे तुम रखवारे, कोटन आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे, सब सुख गए तुम्हारी शरण, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना, आपन तेज समारो आपे, तीनों लोक हंकते कंपे, भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे, नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा, संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ज्ञान जो लावे, सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा, और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई नित्य जीवन फल पावे, चारों युग पर ताप तुम्हारा, हरि पर सिद्ध जगत विद्याला, साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे, अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असवर तीन जानकी माता, राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा, तुमने भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे, अनंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई, और देवता चित्तन धरई, हनुमत सही सर्व सुख करही, संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलवीरा, जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई, जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, चिंतन बंदी महासुख होई, जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीशा, तुलसीदास सदा हरिचेरा, नीचे नाद हृदय महदेरा, पवन जय संकट हरणा, मंगल मूर्ति रूप, राम लखन सीता सहिता, हृदय बसो सुर भूप, सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय Jai. Excellent work. Thank you, Tejas and Shreyas, for the excellent recital. With this, we will conclude Hanuman Chalisa segment for this week. And then we are going to do Mangala Sasanam, which is the best wishes for all the world. Please sing along with me. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Excellent work. With this, we will conclude today's session. If you have any questions, stay back. I will stay for another 5-10 minutes and I will try to answer your question. If you don't have any question, you're free to leave now. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Hari Om. See you. Hari Om. Bye. See you all next week, same time. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Hari Om.
I have a question.
Who is talking? Go ahead.
Ramakrishna Javaji.
Okay. What is your name?
My name is Akshara Javaji.
Akshad. Tell me, Akshad. What's your question?
Akshara Javaji.
Akshar Jabaji. Okay. Tell me, Akshar. What's happening? What's your question?
You told us that the monkeys are just gods in a monkey form, but doesn't that mean Ravana can defeat them because Ravana named gods and the monkeys are just forms are
They are forms of gods, but they got their strength from the gods. So they poured all their strength into the gods and created all these monkeys. But as creatures, they are still monkeys. Same as Rama. So if you think of Rama, he is Vishnu. He's also a god, right? But in this creation, in this particular form, he is a human being and nothing else. That's why when he saw Garuda, he didn't recognize him. He said, "Who are you? How come you are so strong?" So even though Vishnu, he put all his strengths into Rama, he is another form of Rama. In this particular avatar, he is a human being. Same goes to the other gods. They poured all their strengths into those monkeys. But if you take them, they're different forms. There is a monkey and there is a same corresponding god who is like a father to that particular monkey. Make sense?
yes.
Awesome. You have any other questions?
No.
Great. Do good, be good. I'll see you next week again. Hari Om. If you don't have any other questions, we can conclude our session here.
Rec-